So let's now discuss narrative. And again, I know that you've probably talked about this in high school, but we're going to look at the difference in what we're doing in college and in high school in another slide. So we pretty much know that a narrative, to write a narrative, means to basically write a story. And in this class, it's absolutely going to be a personal narrative. And the book says that a personal narrative is one that articulates personal experiences to reflect upon, make sense of, find meaning in topics such as identity, acts of overcoming, personal and family history, and societal issues. So we know this, but the question is, how do we do this? How do we make a really compelling personal narrative? So we know that stories can be fine, they can be bad too. They can be good, but they can be great. So this video is really going to start thinking about some strategies, some ways that we can make a really great narrative, a really great story. So I do want to talk a little bit about the difference right now between college and high school because I know that you've written narratives before in probably elementary school. But just to start off right off the bat, you're in college now. This is a new moment for you, a new experience in your life. And so it's the perfect time to reflect back on who you were in the past and who you are now. What do you bring to college? What are the strengths about your personality, about your identity, about your beliefs and ideas and your excitements? What kinds of things do you bring to the table? So it's a perfect moment right now at the beginning of your college career to reflect on who you are. Also, the narrative gives you a chance to think about what writing is. So I bet anything that in high school, writing is sort of formulaic. You definitely have your intro. It has very specific elements. You definitely have your conclusion. It has specific elements, and you've got your body paragraphs. And while a lot of those absolutely help us make effective communication, the truth is that writing has no formula. And you're going to find that out in college, is that um, different disciplines will require different things, and there can be formulaic aspects to writing or to composition. But composition means looking at what you need to get, what message you need to get across, and finding the best way to do that. And that might be a little bit unconventional. So, this is the perfect time to be a little creative. And I know teachers say this all the time. They say, be creative, but then they dock you points for not having what you need. I am really giving you this opportunity to try something new, to really take this to a different place. So, while there are lots of different things we can talk about in terms of how to write a narrative, I want to start off, I want to sort of take this opportunity to talk about what's the beginning of that narrative going to look like? What's the introduction? How do you get the story started? In other words, you need to make your audience, which for this class is going to be me and your peers, want to actually keep reading and not just feel like, ugh, I have to keep going through this. So, how do you do this? And what are different considerations from writing, like with words on a page, to making a movie or even writing a song or those kinds of considerations? So, what we're going to do first is I want you to pause this video and watch the opening clip of the entire series of Rick and Morty. This is a show that a lot of students in the past have enjoyed, and you might hate it, you might enjoy it, but I want you to pause it and I want you to think to yourself as you watch, how did the authors and animators set the scene? How did they invite the audience to keep watching? So pause and then come back. Okay, welcome back. So, while we can have a ton of conversation about this in the classroom, and I really wish we could, I've picked out a couple of ways that I think that they set the scene. So, first off, instead of introducing us to the setting and the characters, they dropped us right into the action. No explanation, they just started it up. Also, they don't introduce us to the characters like, hi, this is Rick, hi, this is Morty, but because it's visual, because it's a TV show, we see their traits. We see the fact that he's a young kid who lives in a room and he has those specific things that you might have in a room. We see that Rick is an alcoholic because of what he's doing as he's driving his spaceship. We see all of these things, and so it gives us information about those characters. And while you can't do that necessarily like this in a written narrative, you can still describe things to get the point across without just telling the audience. This makes it a little bit more interesting. And then, lastly, and perhaps most importantly, At the beginning of Rick and Morty, we get a ton of tension right immediately at the beginning. We have bombs that we're dealing with. We have secret crushes. So they really just drop us right in to this very intense moment. And that is one effective way that you could think about beginning your own narrative. Now, for something totally different, this is a short story by Jamaica Kincaid. And I want you again to pause the video, listen to it, and read along. And I want you to ask yourself the same question: how does Kincaid set the scene or invite audiences to keep watching, or rather, that should say listening? All right, or reading. So pause the video and then come back. All right, again, we have a lot of question marks. Things that maybe your teacher, if you turn this into a teacher, your teacher would say, yeah, but who are the characters and what is the setting? This one never really tells us who the characters are, but it kind of makes it more mysterious and interesting. All we get are these little short snippets of sentences, which are really commands, and they keep up a kind of momentum. It's a short piece, so it's almost as if the short little sentences propel us into the next one. It keeps us being like, well, what's going on? Also, we get clues as we read about the setting, about the characters, about what's happening, and it's intriguing. It's almost like a puzzle that we put together. And there are a lot of details about the kinds of food and the kinds of culture that is happening here that are interesting and that make us wonder what's going on, and that creates a kind of interest for the readers. So, this is all very different. These two are very different ways of beginning, but maybe it gives you some ideas for how you might start your own narrative and to really be creative and to take a moment to use that creativity to show us, the readers, something about who you are.